Alright, so this is going to be the tutorial on how to create the double exposure photo. This is the updated version of the tutorial. There's a couple things I added from the previous one. So I'm going to follow the same procedure as I did before. You want to work with a person. You want to have the portrait photo and and then your landscape. Alright, just remember when you're choosing your photos, it's real important to find a photograph with the the portrait of the person, and you want to have a white background. Alright, white's gonna work out the best. The only case where it won't work out the best is if they have really bright white blonde platinum hair. Alright, but basically we're gonna cut out the portrait from the image, and we're going to get rid of the background. And when you choose your background photo, it does help out to it's real important to think about simplicity as one of your guidelines for the photos, because you don't want to have too many distractions in the photos. You want to have nice open spaces, and this is going to allow you to pick really easy areas to do your double exposure. So to begin, you want to click and drag your photo onto Photoshop. Okay, so you can drag the portrait first, and we're going to be using the quick selection tool. So this is going to be this tool here. Looks like the brush with the dot lines. And I'm going to click plus on the quick selection tool. So plus is going to allow you to select those areas, whereas minus is going to deselect those areas. So I'm just drawing in those areas that I want to select. Once you get closer to the hair, you don't need to get those little strands of the hair, but just get the general shape of the hair. Again, don't worry about the strands. I'm not going to worry about selecting this part here, because we're going to use a tool to help to select that area better. Alright, so I'm going to try to get a little bit of this eyebrow here. Alright, so this is actually pretty good. So you want to have a selection of like the majority of the portrait, and then after you've done that, let me show you one other thing too. Let's just say if you mess up and you select too much of it, like I selected the background here. So if you want to deselect certain areas, you're going to hit this minus here, and you're going to deselect those areas. Alright, so just make sure you selected everything that you wanted. That's really important. Take your time on this step, because it'll make things easier when you move on to the next part. So the next part is you want to click on this refine edge button. Okay, so once you click on refine edge, real important, when you open this window, it's probably going to look like this when you open it. It's going to look like this. So you always want to have the smart radius selected, the decontaminate color selected, and you want to make sure the output to changes to new layer with layer mask, and click on remember settings. That way you don't have to keep changing this over and over again. Alright, but if you look at the screen though, the pink is going to show the areas that are going to be cut out, and the picture is going to show obviously what the picture is going to look like. So the way I got this view was it's on overlay. So there's a lot of different views you can look at it from. This one's with black, that's with white. I usually like using the overlay because you kind of get like a clear idea of what's being selected. So now what you want to do is you're going to click here, and you just want to go over the edges just to clean it up a little bit more. So this is actually going to help out a lot with the hair. So I'm just going to just go around the edges, because it's going to help to select those areas with the hair. And this part here I don't need to go over. I'm going to go over a little bit on the eyebrow. But if you look carefully though, it's helping to clean it up a little bit more. Alright, so I'm going to do the top up here. Just go over the hair. So this is going to help to select those little hair areas. And in some cases it may not do it perfectly perfectly the way you want it. Oh, hold on. I need to resize this window. You know what, let me open up in the windowed version. I'm gonna hit cancel. Yeah, see, it's really hard for me to select that window, so I'm just gonna put it as window, refine edge again. I'm gonna do it over again one more time. So I'm just gonna refine the edges. And you can always resize the brush too. You can use the bracket keys, or you can resize it up here as well. So I'm just gonna go over these edges again real quick. I'm going to do the bottom here too because there's some like white areas. Okay, so, oops. Yeah, that's as good as I'll get it. So, alright, now, I cleaned up a little bit more. It does help to go back to having it change to black and white. So, if you look at some of these gray areas, that means those areas are going to be cut out. So I'm going to go over again with the eraser, just so it doesn't cut out the eye right here. That's just going to help to clean it up a little bit more, and especially like for the top of the hair. Yeah, these little strands, I want to keep those. Alright, so this is pretty good. I'm going to just keep it like this. So I'm going to go back to the overlay. Alright, and then the decontaminate color, that's going to help to, I usually like leaving it at a high percentage, so like 90 is pretty good. And then I'm going to click OK. Once I'm done with all of that, I'm going to click OK. And, if everything cut out perfectly, then it should cut out the picture perfectly. Alright, so once you've done this, then the next step is you're going to create I want you to create a duplicate copy of the background, or the portrait and the layer mask, because you're going to have to use two different layer masks for this part. Okay, and then so you're going to have two different ones, and then on the very bottom layer you want to create a new layer, and then you're going to use the paint bucket, and the paint bucket is just going to be used as the background color. So I'm going to just use this, I'm just going to use like a white color, just as a default. I mean, originally the picture's white, but we're just going to keep it white. Alright, so now we have our duplicated layers of the portrait, and now I just want to click and drag the landscape photo that I want to use. I'm going to drag it onto the image, and now I'm just going to resize that image. Okay, I'm just going to resize it big enough to just fill the whole screen. Double click to finalize everything, and then once you're done with that, then you want to click on one of your layer. You want the portrait layers with the layer mask, and click and drag the layer mask down onto the landscape. So now the landscape is going to use the layer mask of the portrait, and then you can delete this layer because you don't need it no more. Alright, but if I hide this image here, it's going to create a silhouette of the background. And if you want to move that background, you're going to have to click on this lock button, and that's going to allow you to move the landscape without moving the whole layer mask. If I click on that lock button, it's going to move both. So you don't want to do that. You want to click the lock button to just move the background. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is alright, we're going to make both of these images black and white. Okay, but if you want, you could just do the portrait black and white, but because when you do the overlays on the picture, it's not going to look correct. So on the portrait layer, you can go to Image, Adjustments, and change to black and white. And then you go click OK. So now when I do the multiply, that's going to make the image see-through. You can either choose to use multiply or lighten. Alright, and they're both going to have two different effects. But let me explain what's happening with these effects. So if you look at the image, okay, the multiply, what that layer is doing for the portrait, and these are the overlays up here. There's a lot of different ones, but we're mainly going to be using the multiply and the lighten. Multiply brings out the shadows of the image. So all those areas where it's black and those dark grays, those are going to pop out in the image, and the white's going to become see-through. So typically, if you want to use use this overlay for your portraits, you want to find more areas where it's white in the image. So like if I move this close to the sky, this image would work out pretty fine. But if I move it more toward the ground, then you can't really see it that well. Okay, and now if I switch this to lighten, okay, it does the opposite now in the picture. Everything that's dark in the picture, all the highlights in the picture, so like the light grays, the whites, that's going to pop out of the image, and then all the darks are going to be faded. So it's up to you how you want to do your double exposure. You can either bring out the highlights or bring out the shadows of the image. And again, it's going to depend completely on what kind of an image that you want to use.